Fifth Grade Magic by Beatrice Gormley. Copyright 1982. Chapter 12. Aurora's Error. The next morning the air was balmy and billowing clouds drifted across the sky. On the lawn of the Congregational Church, the pink dogwoods were in bloom. Taking deep breaths, Gretchen jumped over the lines on the sidewalk. This beautiful morning seemed to be focused on her, the way Beth's spotlight would be focused on her this afternoon. That is, if Aurora's last spell had worked before the enchantulator broke. Of course it had worked. Just the same, Gretchen started to run. Shoving open the front door of the school, Gretchen raced up the stairs to Mrs. Shepherd's classroom. She didn't want to waste a minute. As soon as Mrs. Shepherd discovered Amy was absent, Gretchen could start getting ready to play her part. She yanked open the classroom door and bumped into someone standing just inside. Oof! The other girl turned around, an indignant look in her brown eyes. It was Amy, and her face was creamy smooth, not even one tiny spot. But Gretchen couldn't stand here staring at Amy like a dummy. Sorry, she mumbled. She turned away and dropped into her seat. What was Amy doing at school when she was supposed to be home with the chicken pox? Had the enchantulator broken before the spell was set after all? Take it easy, Gretchen told herself. She managed a smile for Beth, sitting down beside her. Amy must have the chicken pox. She just hadn't broken out yet. The spots would start popping any minute now. What if they didn't break out until after the play was over this afternoon? No, they had to break out this morning. Aurora had said the spell would take effect this morning. Leaning back in her chair, Gretchen strained her eyes to examine Amy's face again. Kathy caught her looking and whispered something to Amy. Flushing, Gretchen bent over her book bag. People, Mrs. Shepherd's voice squeaked. She cleared her throat. Let's try to settle down and work this morning, although I know we're all excited about the play. I'm sorry, she cleared her throat again. Very sorry to say that Miss Degrassi is in the hospital with pneumonia, but I think the nicest thing we can do for her is to go on with the show. Yes, Beth? What about the spotlight? Asked Beth. Gretchen looked at her in amazement. What did the spotlight matter, compared with the bad news that Mrs. Shepherd would be directing the play? But Mrs. Shepherd looked a little happier. Oh, yes, that's the good news this morning. The spotlight turned up at the high school, and we have it back. She let out her breath. Well, who's the paper monitor today? Please pass out lined paper. Name and date at the top, people. But the class was only a few words into the spelling quiz when Dennis raised his hand. Please wait until after the quiz, Dennis, said the teacher in her I'm trying to be patient tone. I don't feel very good, Mrs. Shepherd, he blurted out. His tone was so pitiful, so unlike Dennis the Menace Boyd, that Gretchen stared at him. He didn't look very good. His eyes were glazed, and his face was blotchy. Walking over to Dennis's table, Mrs. Shepherd peered down at him. Why, Dennis, you certainly don't look well. You look like... Then she drew back, suspicion on her face. Dennis, tell me the truth. Did you make those spots on your face with a red felt pen? There were giggles around the classroom at the idea of Dennis putting red spots on his face to fool the teacher. But Dennis didn't laugh. No, honest. He rested his forehead in his hands. My head aches. The teacher put a hand on the shoulder of his plaid shirt. I can see you don't feel well, Dennis. You may go down to the nurse. As Dennis pulled himself slowly out of his seat, she looked around the room. I didn't know chicken pox was going around. Is this the first case? Chicken pox? Gretchen gasped, staring at the back of Dennis's plaid flannel shirt in the doorway. The door swung closed behind him, but the plaid stayed before her eyes. It was the same shirt Dennis had worn the day of the class picture. Dennis had short blonde hair like Amy. Amy had short blonde hair and a plaid shirt? Aurora had asked as she looked at the class picture. Oh, no, moaned Gretchen. Everyone turned to stare at her. What is it, Gretchen? Alarmed, the teacher started toward her. Don't you feel well either? There was, as a matter of fact, a sickening feeling in the pit of Gretchen's stomach. No, I'm sorry. With an effort, she pulled herself together. I was just thinking about the play. The play! Now Mrs. Shepherd looked stricken. Dennis is the villain! She sat down heavily on the edge of her desk, looking into space over their heads. Finally, she said unhappily, Well, Dennis's understudy will just have to take over. Her gaze fell on Gretchen again. You're going to prompt him, aren't you, Gretchen? We'll get through. I'm sure the play will go just fine. Drawing herself up, she glanced down at the paper in her hand. Where were we in the spelling quiz? Word number 4? Neighbor. Kathy is playing the Winsome's neighbor. Gretchen stared at her paper until the blue line seemed to leap out from the yellow background. No, it couldn't be happening this way, just because of a stupid mistake in Aurora's spell. If only she had gotten up from the bed and checked what Aurora was looking at. If she had done that, Amy would be in the nurse's office right now, waiting for her mother to pick her up and take her home. Number 5, Mrs. Shepherd's precise voice broke into Gretchen's thoughts. Mustache. Hair on the upper lip is called a mustache. If only Aurora had been more careful. If only a real fairy godmother, instead of that nitwit Aurora, had answered Gretchen's call in the first place. Cadman Blackheart has a mustache, said Mrs. Shepherd. Did everyone get that? Miserable Gretchen wrote the word down. The only good thing was that Dennis would get out of having to wear his silly costume and mustache. He'd be happy about that. At least someone would be happy. Gretchen felt too low even to cry. Her mother and father were coming to the play too, and she wouldn't be in it. Later in the morning, Beth's whisper cut through the fog of despair around Gretchen. Why is Mrs. Shepherd staring at you? Mrs. Shepherd, who had spent the last 2 months not looking at Gretchen, now staring at her? But Beth was right. Over and over, as the teacher worked with the reading groups, her eyes wandered toward Gretchen. Mrs. Shepherd looked thoughtful, hopeful, as though she were trying to work something out. The teacher's gaze made Gretchen uneasy, but she felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe, in some strange roundabout way, Aurora's magic would finally work to give Gretchen the part of Polly Winsome. What was going through the teacher's mind? Was she realizing how much better the play would be if Gretchen were the star? That's a pretty crazy hope, the sensible part of Gretchen told her. Don't count on it. But as the children lined up for lunch, Mrs. Shepherd beckoned to Gretchen. Gretchen, could I speak to you for just a minute, please? She smiled in a stiff, anxious way. Heart thumping, Gretchen stepped up to the teacher's desk. Why, yes, Mrs. Shepherd, she would answer graciously. I'd be glad to play Polly Winsome. Behind her pink lens glasses, Mrs. Shepherd's eyes looked even redder than usual. Gretchen, I'm sure you want to cooperate to make this 5th grade play every bit as good as it can be. Gretchen nodded. Just go ahead and ask me, she said silently. Mrs. Shepherd's smile relaxed. I knew you wouldn't mind playing Cadman Blackheart. You know the part so well, and Dennis's understudy is, well, frankly. Gretchen stared stupidly at the teacher. Mrs. Shepherd's voice was blocked out by the buzzing in Gretchen's head. Cadman Blackheart? She, Gretchen, get up on the stage in front of everyone wearing a top hat and a mustache? No! The word came out of her mouth in a squawk. She backed away from the teacher's desk. No! But, Gretchen! Unwillingly, Gretchen's eyes met Mrs. Shepherd's. If only you would do it. It would make the difference between just muddling through and a performance that Mr. Mixel, that we all can be proud of. With a visible effort, the teacher forced out one more word. Please. Mrs. Shepherd was in Gretchen's power. For an instant, Gretchen felt an urge to squash her like a mosquito. Mrs. Shepherd was admitting it. She needed Gretchen to make the play even halfway decent. To play the humiliating part of Cadman Blackheart. So let her get up on the stage and make a fool of herself. If Mrs. Shepherd was so concerned, let her paste the mustache on her own face. Then, in spite of the way the teacher had treated her, Gretchen felt a wave of pity for Mrs. Shepherd. It must be awful for her to come into this classroom day after day when she didn't even like 5th graders. She must wish she were back with her sweet little 2nd graders. And it must be awful to be so nervous about what the principal would think. Well, why shouldn't Gretchen play the villain? Her chance to be the star was gone anyway, and she could keep the play from being a flop. Gretchen found herself opening her mouth. All right. Relief flooded Mrs. Shepherd's face. Thank you. Jumping up from her chair, the teacher pressed Gretchen's reluctant hand. Let's go try the black suit right now. It should fit you pretty well, I think. Shortly after recess, the children in the play went to the restrooms to put on their costumes. Mrs. Thatcher will make you up, said Mrs. Shepherd. Come to the gym as soon as you're ready. All the other girls carried their old-fashioned ruffled dresses, holding up the long skirts to keep them from dragging on the floor. Gretchen, looking grimly straight ahead, carried the black suit and cape and top hat. Dressing in the restroom, she watched gloomily as Amy's mother went from one girl to the other, applying lipstick and rouge. Then Mrs. Satcher stopped in front of Gretchen. She must think I'm the perfect one to play the villain, thought Gretchen. Mrs. Satcher's eyes were cold, but she only said, "Take off that hat. I'm going to slick down your hair with Vaseline and part it in the middle. Now white powder on your face and dark eyebrows. I thought I brought in a mustache with this costume." Putting her hand in the pocket of the black coat, Gretchen touched something hairy. She shuddered. "I've got it. Mr. Shepherd's going to glue it on." Maybe the teacher would forget. Mrs. Satcher picked up the dark brown eyeshadow. "Some of this on your cheeks will make your face look thinner. And you need mean lines around your mouth and between your eyebrows." The other girls clustered around, watching. When Mrs. Satcher had finished, there was a moment of silence. Gretchen glared around the circle, daring them to laugh, but they only looked amazed. Then Kathy snickered. But before she could make any smart remarks, Mrs. Satcher said, "Aren't you girls supposed to go to the gym? Scoot along. Sugar, give Mother a kiss for good luck." For a creepy moment, Gretchen thought Mrs. Satcher was talking to her. But of course she meant Amy. As the girls hurried through the hall, Gretchen hung back from the others. She could imagine all too well what Kathy was whispering to Amy. Gretchen burned with resentment. In the gym, Mrs. Shepherd was scurrying back and forth like an ant in front of the rows of folding chairs. "He was supposed to raise it. I specifically made a point of asking him, just yesterday." "What is she talking about?" Gretchen asked Beth. Doing a double take at Gretchen dressed as Cadman Blackheart, Beth popped her bubble gum. "Wow, you make a better villain than Dennis did." Then, realizing that was the wrong thing to say, she went on. "It's the basketball net. See, it's still hanging right in front of the curtain." "Beth," Mrs. Shepherd's voice was squeaking again, "run across the hall to the custodian's room and ask him to please bring the ladder immediately to the gym. The parents will be arriving. Hurry!" As Beth sped off, Gretchen looked enviously after her. Beth was still wearing her jeans and t-shirt. She didn't have to get up on the stage looking ridiculous. "Gretchen, where's your mustache?" The teacher had remembered. Gretchen's heart sank, but she pulled it out of the pocket of the black coat. Putting both hands to her head, Mrs. Shepherd moaned, "The glue! It's in the room. I don't have time to get it now." The custodian appeared in the gym doorway, whistling and carrying a ladder. Beth held the door open for him. "Beth," called Mrs. Shepherd, "run up to the room and get the glue for Gretchen's mustache." Beth started out the door, but then she turned and trotted back to where Gretchen and Mrs. Shepherd stood in front of the stage. "I bet it would stick on even better with gum, Mrs. Shepherd." She took the wad of bubble gum from her mouth. Before Gretchen could protest, Beth was spreading her gum over Gretchen's upper lip, and Mrs. Shepherd was pressing the mustache on top of that. "Oh, Beth, how ingenious! Let's go backstage now, people. Everybody backstage." "Except the spotlight technician," said Beth. "Except, yes." The teacher looked distracted. To the custodian, she said coldly, "Thank you so much." Behind the curtains, the scenery hadn't even been set up. Mrs. Shepherd started giving orders to the stagehands in a frantic whisper. The actors milled around in the wings. Just as two stagehands were setting the stove down in its place, the curtains flew open. The stagehands gaped at the parents and younger children taking their place in the rows of seats. "Is the play starting now, Mommy?" piped a little voice. "Close the curtains!" Mrs. Shepherd's voice was low but furious. The curtains swung shut. The children backstage choked down giggles, and they heard chuckles from the audience. Gretchen stood stage left, apart from the others, or as far apart as she could be in the cramped space. Maybe she couldn't save the play from flopping after all. It looked like it was going to be a humiliating joke. And she herself, Gretchen the villain, would be the biggest joke of all. Gretchen put her hand to her upper lip. The mustache was on there for good, probably. Bubblegum never came off. Her stomach clenched as she listened to the rustling and murmuring and the squeaking of folding chairs on the other side of the curtain. It sounded like millions of people, including Mom and Daddy. Why had she asked them to come? It would be so embarrassing for them, the parents of that girl in the mustache. Amy and Kathy and the others were pushing each other and giggling. "Shh," said Mrs. Shepherd. "The audience can hear you. Everyone ready?" Amy and the girl playing the mother scurried to their places. The teacher stepped in front of the curtain to introduce the play. The gym became quiet, and then Gretchen heard the audience clapping. All those hands, all those people watching. Now the piano was rattling out the melodrama mood-setting music. And now the curtains parted, showing Amy bending over to take a papier-mâché pie from the cardboard oven. The oven door did not come off in her hand. The play had begun. As helpless as if she were in a nightmare, Gretchen watched the scene roll on toward Cadman Blackheart's first entrance. She couldn't escape. She was going to have to walk onto that stage with a mustache on her face and greasy hair and say, "Aha, my pretty," to Amy. Amy would probably die laughing. The audience would roar. Gretchen clenched her fists. No one cared how she felt. Mrs. Shepherd certainly didn't care. She just wanted to look good in front of the parents and Mr. Mixel. Gretchen scowled at Mrs. Shepherd's back as the teacher peered out from the wings. Turning, Mrs. Shepherd beckoned to her. "This is your cue coming up." Her voice was urgent. "Wonderful expression, Gretchen. Just keep your face like that." On the stage, Polly Winsome, alone in her kitchen, was musing out loud. "How fortunate that Mama and I are able to earn a modest income from the tasty pies we bake. Otherwise, we could never pay Mr. Blackheart, the banker, the mortgage installments on our humble but cozy home." "Now!" breathed Mrs. Shepherd, giving Gretchen a little push. The low chords for the villain's entrance bonged from the piano. Chapter 13. Gretchen to the Rescue. Then Gretchen was out on the stage, squinting in the spotlight. "Aha, my pretty," she said, but her words were drowned in a chorus of hisses and boos. Strangely, no one was laughing. "Say it again," whispered Mrs. Shepherd from the wings. "Louder! Twirl your mustache!" Then something inside Gretchen's mind shifted, like a bolt falling into place. She had it. 5 years of waiting to be the star of the 5th grade play, and here she was, the villain. Well, she felt like a villain, mean and nasty, black-hearted. Flinging her cape around her, Gretchen strode over to Amy. She leaned menacingly toward her. "Aha, my pretty!" "Heh heh heh." Amy shrank away, looking startled. Why, Banker Blackheart, I could not help but overhear," sneered Gretchen. "So your income depends entirely upon these little pies, Miss Winsome?" Looking Amy up and down, Gretchen twirled her mustache. A flashbulb from someone's camera lit the stage even brighter for an instant. "Psst! Boo! Don't talk to him!" called someone from the front rows. That was Daddy's voice. Gretchen's heart leapt up. He didn't sound humiliated that his daughter was wearing a mustache. He sounded excited and happy. Gretchen felt a surge of energy flow through her. As she spoke her lines, she strolled around the cottage, giving a pie a scornful push, turning to the audience to snicker behind her hand. Amy didn't seem to know how to react. She stood frozen beside the stove all through the scene, staring at Gretchen. But that's fine, thought Gretchen, flipping her cape under Amy's nose. She's supposed to be scared. When Gretchen finally slunk into the wings with a parting heh heh heh, Mrs. Shepherd met her, eyes wide with hope. "Marvelous, Gretchen!" The teacher gripped her shoulder. "Mr. Mixwell will be so proud." In the next scene, Amy began to ham it up. She clasped her hands, rolled her eyes, and gave dainty little shrieks when Cadman Blackheart approached her. At last, Amy was acting, and it was Gretchen who was getting her to act. Gretchen felt as if she could do anything now. The play was rolling along with the smoothness and force of an ocean wave. All the kids in the cast, the mother, the neighbor, the sheriff, the townspeople, were acting better than they ever had in rehearsal. The audience was clapping, cheering, booing in all the right places. It seemed that nothing could go wrong. Even in the third scene, when a scenery tree fell over backstage with a resounding crash, the actors went on with hardly a hitch. All too soon, the final scene rose to the climax. The sheriff was dragging Gretchen off the stage, shouting, "There's a place behind bars for the likes of you, ex-banker Blackheart." Gretchen was so sorry it was over. "Curses!" she sneered savagely at the audience, lifting handcuffed hands to twirl her mustache one last time. "Curses! Foiled again!" The audience cheered so long that the other actors had to wait a moment before they went on with the play. Then Amy was speaking the last line. The curtains swept shut. The clapping began on the other side of the curtains and went on and on. "Line up for your bow," said Mrs. Shepherd, herding them into order. "Amy and Gretchen in the middle. Go on now." The curtains parted again, and the applause swelled. Blinking in Beth's spotlight, Gretchen bowed. She couldn't stop grinning, in spite of the fact that it pulled the bubble gum on her upper lip and hurt. Then Mrs. Shepherd stepped from the wings to the edge of the stage, holding up her hand for quiet. "Now that the play is over, I want to thank you one and all for being such a supportive, cooperative audience and participating with us in the fun. And I want to let you in on a secret. The star of our play is a talented girl and a real trooper who at the very last minute, due to Dennis Boyd's unfortunate illness, took over the part of the villain Cadman Blackheart, Gretchen Nichols. As the audience began to clap again, Mrs. Shepherd took Gretchen's hand and pulled her forward from the line of actors. "Heh heh heh," said Gretchen, flinging her cape over her shoulder. In spite of the spotlight shining in her eyes, she could dimly see Daddy sitting next to Mom in the front row. He stopped clapping long enough to give her a thumbs-up sign. "Bravo!" "Bow," whispered Mrs. Shepherd out of the corner of her mouth. So Gretchen took another bow, and the audience hissed and booed and cheered more loudly than before. Then the curtain closed for the last time. But that wasn't the end of the glory. On the floor of the gym, a mother came up with her little boy, who wanted Gretchen to autograph his program. Then more and more little kids crowded around Gretchen, holding out their programs. As Gretchen wrote her name over and over, she heard Kathy's voice somewhere behind her. "I guess the reason it was so good was we really knew how to act," Kathy was saying modestly. "You see, we started a drama club, and we practiced acting every day at recess." Gretchen grinned to herself. Then Mom and Daddy were beside her, beaming. "Darling, you were wonderful. What an actor!" Mrs. Nichols hugged her. "Wasn't it lucky you got the villain's part after all?" "Luckier than you think," thought Gretchen. "It sure was." "Hey, Gretchen, I think you look good in a mustache." Her father squeezed her tight, whispering in her ear, "You are a real trooper. I'm proud of you." "I'm glad you think I look good in a mustache," said Gretchen, giggling wildly, "because it's stuck on with bubble gum. It won't come off." Mrs. Nichols looked at her, shaking her head and laughing. "Don't worry, we'll work on it with rubbing alcohol." "Darling, you were so wonderful. To think I was worried about you." "Oh, hello, Mr. Mixel." The principal smiled approvingly down at Gretchen. "Well done, Gerda. My congratulations to you." "Gretchen," said Gretchen, wondering if he remembered her from the day Mrs. Shepherd had dragged Amy and Gretchen to his office. He kept on smiling, not seeming to hear. "So you stepped into the breach at the last minute and saved the play. This is the spirit we like to see at the Standish School. Going the extra mile. Miles Standish. Ha ha." With a firm handshake for Gretchen's father, he moved on. Exchanging glances, Gretchen and her parents burst out laughing. Then Mr. Nichols stretched his wrist to look at his watch. "I've got to get to the bank before it closes. But let's go out to dinner tonight and celebrate, huh? Can you get a sitter for Jason, Linda?" So Mr. Nichols left, and Mrs. Nichols waited for Gretchen while she went into the girls' restroom to take off her costume. She put the black suit and cape and top hat carefully back into the costume boxes, but she left all the makeup on her face. She couldn't get the mustache off now anyway, and besides, she wanted to look like the villain for a little while longer. Just as Gretchen was about to leave, the door swung open. Amy rustled in, holding up the hem of her white dress. "Gretchen!" An eager expression lit up her face. Then she hesitated, as if she felt shy. "Gretchen, you must be the best actor in the school." She paused, pulling off her long-haired wig and shaking her head. "Mrs. Shepherd should have given you a good part to begin with." Amy paused again, looking at Gretchen as if she expected her to explain something. But Gretchen just grinned. "Well, I'm glad she did, because then she wouldn't have given me a boy's part, and I really liked being the villain." She was surprised to find herself feeling so friendly toward Amy. "You did a great job yourself. I didn't know you could act that well." "Neither did I," said Amy. They both laughed. Gretchen thought of their two pictures smiling at each other in the photograph folder and wondered if you could become friends with someone by magic. "Well, my mother's waiting for me." Gretchen pushed open the door. "See you later." "See you later." On the way home with her mother, Gretchen felt as if she were in a triumphal parade, riding down Maple Avenue under the arch of new green leaves. The afternoon sun slanted through the leaves into the car. As they passed the Congregational Church, Gretchen smiled and waved at a lady coming down the steps, someone she didn't even know. She felt so kindly. She wanted to do something nice for someone else. Maybe she would send Dennis Boyd a get well card. After picking up Jason at Mrs. Terrence's, they turned into their own driveway. "If you'll run upstairs and get the alcohol from the bathroom," Mrs. Nichols said, "I'll work on your mustache." "Okay." Gretchen skipped up the stairs, still buoyed by the energy that had swept her through the play. She almost passed her bedroom without noticing the strange light under the door. Then Gretchen stopped short. Aurora back again? Gretchen hadn't called her. She was doing just fine without any more magic, thank you. Reluctantly, Gretchen turned the doorknob and peeked inside. She drew in her breath sharply. Two figures hovered in the middle of her room. The larger one was so large that the top of her visored cap almost brushed the ceiling. Her drab blue uniform bulged and strained, instead of bagging and dragging as it had on Aurora. Gazing at the row of medals gleaming on the woman's bolster-like chest, Gretchen knew this must be Aurora's Aunt Injuncta. In one hand, Injuncta carried an enchantulator. With the other hand, she gripped the arm of the smaller figure, Aurora, who now looked very young indeed. She cast Gretchen a pleading look. "Where is the client Gretchen of Sector 87? Asked Injuncta as Gretchen stepped into the room. Her voice, like a radio with the volume turned up, made the shade of the lamp on Gretchen's nightstand quiver. I'm Gretchen." "Aurora!" Injuncta looked down wrathfully. "You have facilitated the growth of hair in the region of her upper lip." Aurora began to sniffle. "Honest, Aunt Injuncta, she didn't." To prove it, Gretchen tried to pull the mustache off. "Ow!" She dropped her hand, wincing. "It's just part of a costume." But Injuncta was not listening. "In spite of the fact that my niece," she gave Aurora's arm a fierce shake, "is withholding confession-wise, it is clear enough that she has brought disgrace upon the agency by her imposture and bungling. At the present time, I, Injuncta, in my capacity as director of the agency and bearer of our proud standard of service for the past 5 eons, would like to address the need for making personal amends. First of all, a full and humble apology." Injuncta glared at her niece. Looking in the direction of Gretchen's feet, Aurora began to mumble, as if she had memorized what she was saying. "I, Aurora, humbly apologize to Gretchen, the human child I have wronged through my selfishness, irresponsibility, and utter disregard of the rules and regulations of the agency. I fully admit that I am not fit to take my place in the proud ranks of the agency, and hereby forfeit my hereditary rights thereto." Aurora gulped back a sob. "The culprit is required to continue," said Injuncta. She looked as restless as a rhinoceros. But before Aurora could go on, Gretchen burst out. "Excuse me, Mrs. Injuncta. I don't mean to interrupt, but you're making a mistake about Aurora. She didn't wrong me at all. She helped me. I'm so glad you brought her here because I wanted to thank her. Really." Injuncta's mouth fell open. She looked from Gretchen to Aurora and back again. "How can that be? She could not possibly have assessed your situational obstacles correctly. She will not be studying situational assessment at the agency for another 2 years. Kindly do not attempt to excuse her inexcusable acts." Gretchen saw that Aurora had lifted her head and was staring at her with a spark of hope in her eye. How could she convince Injuncta? "I don't know how Aurora did it, but she did it absolutely right. You see, I wanted to be the heroine in the 5th grade play. I tried to get Aurora to work a spell so I could play that part. I didn't even care what happened to anyone else. But Aurora knew that wouldn't be right, so she worked the spell so I had to play the villain instead. And I didn't want to, but when the play started, I found out how much fun the villain's part was, and the play was a big hit. And Mrs. Shepherd was happy, and Amy was happy, and everyone else was happy, even Dennis, because he didn't want to be in the play. So it worked out for everyone, not just me. So wasn't that smart of Aurora, even if she did borrow your enchantulator without asking?" "Aurora?" Dropping her niece's arm, Injuncta gazed down at her with astonishment. "Why wasn't this input provided prior to the present moment?" Aurora rubbed her arm, looking bewildered. Gretchen hoped she would be able to think of something. Then Aurora smiled sadly at her aunt, her face round and innocent. "I tried to, Aunt Injuncta, but you ordered me to behave in a silent-oriented manner." Said Injuncta skeptically. "And you always do just as you're told. But never mind. The girl Gretchen's testimony throws quite a different light on your infractions. Breaking the rules of the agency cannot be treated lightly. Still, the fact that so much good was done." She gazed upward in thought, propping her heavy chin on the edge of the enchantulator. "I suppose I need not report this case to the advisory council after all. Disciplinary steps will be taken in an atmosphere conducive to privacy." She frowned at Aurora. "But you won't send her away to the tooth fairies, will you?" asked Gretchen. "Because she wants more than anything to be a fairy godmother, a really super one like you," she added craftily. "That's how she landed in all this trouble. She couldn't wait to get started." "We must cultivate patience, mustn't we, niece Aurora?" Injuncta's tone was sarcastic, but Gretchen thought she saw a smile tugging at the director's lips. "Very well. Still, client Gretchen, it is my feeling that the agency should make amends vis-a-vis the strain you have been under." I, Director Adjuncta, will personally assess your situation and address your needs. She smiled at Gretchen, fingering the keys on her enchantulator. Although Adjuncta's expression was kindly, Gretchen shrank back. No! She edged toward the door. I mean, thank you very much, but I really don't need any more magic. Everything's fine, but thank you very much. No? Adjuncta looked astounded. Then she shrugged. In that case, it is almost closing time. Come, Aurora. She grasped Aurora's hand, much more gently than before. Aurora lifted her free hand to her lips and blew Gretchen a kiss. In closing, Client Gretchen, please be aware that appreciation exists. She winked. You're welcome, said Gretchen, grinning. She blinked, and Aurora and Adjuncta had vanished. Then she heard a door slam downstairs. Where's the meanest villain in town? Called her father. I want an exclusive interview. Joy rose in Gretchen's chest. Twirling her mustache, she ran downstairs.